Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and welcome back also to Auroric 78, for it is none other than he, once again, in yet another light tank, because, well, that's just the way he rolls, and it wasn't that long ago in the Everybody Be Gangster video that we saw him in a light tank on this very map here on Ruinberg, although it was a very, very different light tank to the one that he's in today. Today, he's in the British Tier 10 light tank, the Manticore. I don't know why I built it up like that. It's not very good. When we get a quick chance, we'll talk about why. I mean, it's not absolutely terrible. Oh, enemy AMX 1390 spotted. Want to nail him quick, or at least encourage him to bugger off somewhere else. Although that is kind of the biggest problem with the Manticore, and quite a few of those British light tanks. It's next to impossible to nail anything quickly in these machines because, well, it's to do with the reload. And the Manticore in particular, it has a reload that's measured in ice ages. I mean, this thing doesn't have damage per minute, it has damage per week. See, when they introduced these British light tanks, they advertised them as being light tanks with battleship guns. You kind of have to temper your expectations, of course. Nobody was suggesting that they were going to manage to fit a naval 14-inch or 365mm gun onto one of these light tank chassis, but they managed to fit a naval 14-inch or 365mm gun reload onto one of these light tank chassis. This thing has slightly more than 4 shots per minute. And they managed to combine that with not particularly good accuracy, which is impressive considering this is the British 105mm L7 anti-tank gun, notoriously accurate, and a criminally low ammo count. But then again, I suppose, you know, when you're reloading once a week, you don't really need an awful lot of ammo in the first place, so I guess that's fine. Also, the premium ammo's kind of bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is the British L7 105mm anti-tank gun, so it gets very good penetration. The premium ammo only gets 20mm more, and it's APCR, but it's a special kind of APCR. And when I say special, I mean the kind that loses penetration over distance even faster than normal APCR. Or in other words, for the amount of credits that you pay to load that stuff, it is really actually terribly shit. Which I suppose is a good thing, because it means that if you have any kind of sense whatsoever, like Auroric 78 here, you just don't even bother loading any, because it's more or less a waste of time. And the regular ammo is actually really, really good. You just don't get a lot of it. But, well, you know, with that slow reload and the fact that the battle only lasts 15 minutes at the most, you probably get enough. Maybe. Hopefully. I guess we'll see. Notice that Auroric's up to his old tricks here again on this particular section of the Ruinberg map. He's actually using the bushes on the enemy side of the road for concealment, and this brings us neatly onto the good things about the Manticore, because there are good things about the Manticore. It's not a bad tank. I mean, it's tricky to master, and I think it causes a lot of problems for people who have ground their way up the British light tank line, because the playstyle is fairly different to all of the other British light tanks that precede it, so if you try to apply the same tactics, and it's mostly to do with the reload of the gun. The tier 9, the tier 8, they have guns with much, much faster reloads than this thing. Oh, he's spotted, he's taken a hit. Oh, Auroric, careful, careful. Oh, made it out. Oh, that shot just sailed right over the top of his turret. But another good thing about this machine, its small size. It is incredibly stealthy. But a different playstyle to the tanks that preceded it, which is a problem, because when you get this tank and you try to play it the same way as the previous British light tanks, you're going to be in a world of hurt, because it just does not have the reload to play the same way. If you spot a vulnerable enemy tank on low health that you cannot kill in one shot, and you rush in and try to brawl with him in the same way that you would in the tier 9 or the tier 8, you'll die, because he'll just kill you before you finish the reload and get the second shot off. This is very much a hit-and-run bandit. And it is pretty good at hitting, because it does have a 105mm gun, with excellent penetration and very good alpha damage. And it's very good at running, because it's very small and it's very fast. But you don't brawl in this thing, unless you absolutely know that the target that you're attacking can either be killed in one shot or doesn't have any backup waiting to finish you off while you're going through that reload. And if neither of those things are true, you hit and then you run. And that's how this thing works. Auroric is up to 4,005 damage, which is impressive, but you have to temper your expectations here with a healthy dose of reality, because that 4,005 damage is costing 3/4 of his ammunition, and we're only 5 minutes into a 15-minute battle. The Manticore only enters battle with 20 rounds of ammunition. You know how everybody's always going on about the French light tanks and how dangerous they are, but their biggest weakness is their limited ammo capacity, tanks like the AMX 1390 for example, which is probably the French poster boy for limited ammo capacity. It carries 48 rounds of ammunition, more than twice as much as the Manticore. So Auroric knows he's going to have to start making these final 6 shots count in case he ends up having to carry the team at the end. And he can one-shot the Kunzerpanzer, and he has enough health to trade there. I mean, obviously he'd prefer not to take any damage, but a kill's a kill. And now, while he's suffering through that reload, I guess his job is just to try to continue to ensure that that Lorraine stays spotted. Hey, he's going to take the shot if he can, of course. And that was actually a high damage roll, but not enough to kill the Lorraine. But that's fine, because with the Lorraine looking this way, a friendly was able to sneak around behind him and finish him off. Looking at the scores, 10 kills to 4, it's unlikely that he is going to need to carry the team. But, well, we've seen teams throw games harder than this. So he's sitting in the cap circle. Actually, there are 2 of them in the cap circle. No, the Kanonen Panzer has decided they're going to go for it. And honestly, this is probably the right decision. Everybody swarming these surviving enemy tanks at the same time, giving them no chance to react and defend themselves. Although, credit where credit's due, they are trying to defend themselves as well as they possibly can. But I mean, you know, that T-57 Heavy stood no chance. I mean, look at the number of tanks that were closing in for the kill there. But he did what he could, but it was just never going to be enough. I do like watching a good light tank battle, because they're never boring. I mean, they can be, but then they're not a good light tank battle. You see, there are 3 different kinds of light tank player in World of Tanks. They're either good, they're dead, or they're irrelevant. It's very easy to be dead in a light tank. I'm sure you see lots of dead light tank players every time you hit that random battle button. I'm sure you also see lots of irrelevant light tank players, because they're afraid of being dead light tank players, and so they basically do nothing. And then you've got the good light tank players. And they are very, very much in a minority, because playing light tanks is probably the hardest way to play World of Tanks. But if you're good at it, well, you know, the results speak for themselves. Auroric 78. Thank you once again, good sir, for providing us all with some top-notch light tank entertainment. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.